What does a pharmacist do? Well, most people might answer that a pharmacist dispenses the medications that my doctor prescribes. Now, I work with a ton of great pharmacists, and one thing that I don't generally see is excitement about pills in a vial. And this is probably because pharmacists have been trained to do so much more. So what can you get excited about in your community? To find out, let's go beyond the scripts. Welcome back to Beyond the Scripts. This week, I want to start off going back in time to the year 2001. So for some of you, this is going to date me depending on your perspective as being really old or really young. It's interesting we have that broad of an audience here. But in 2001, on this particular day, I'm walking into the mall and I have my indestructible Nokia brick of a cell phone in my pocket, fully charged because I know it's going to be a late night because it's Monday night and Tuesday mornings when all the new releases drop, right? So it's Sam Goody that I'm working at, and at the time we still had a cassette section, and obviously the main media format was compact disc at the time, but we still had cassettes. And what's so interesting is that I can look back and hindsight lets me see that there's a really clear divide between the cellular device that's in my pocket and the music marketplace that I was going in to work. And, now, of course, that divide seems like so obvious, like how did we not see that coming? And, I still use a cell phone every single day and I still consume music every single day, but we do that a little bit differently. And so I'm not doing that with a compact disc and I'm not using a Nokia cell phone. And so somewhere along the line, those big dogs and their games lost that top spot and the industry around them evolved. And it's not like Nokia didn't know how to evolve, because Nokia actually made rubber boots for years and years and moved into that technology space. And so it's really interesting that we can look at history and have that hindsight vision of these obvious missed opportunities. And one of them that everybody likes to talk about is Blockbuster. Oh, they could have bought Netflix back in whenever for such a cheap amount. But at the time, Netflix was still basically a mail order DVD company. And Blockbuster really didn't believe in that streaming service. And so even though Blockbuster had the tools, the relationships, the capital to take that plunge into a streaming service, they didn't. And so even if they would have bought Netflix just would have been another company that went away, just like Blockbuster. And so it's really interesting that even though we can see those missed opportunities, it's still very challenging today to be willing to change. And not just have that willingness to go along with change and evolve, but that strength to really kind of dictate where your own destiny is going to go and be one of those driving forces in whatever industry you're in. And that could be, in these cases, obviously driven by technology, but could be a lot of other industries, service industries, based on competition or demand. And so that's what we're really going to talk about today, is being able to find ways to change and evolve and what it takes to actually make those changes. So with us today, we have Jen Palazzolo. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, good. I was hoping I would. That's kind of one of my trademark moves is mispronouncing last names on here. So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So Jen, you are in Longmont, Colorado, correct?
Yes.
And that is not your native area, right? Did you grow up in Colorado?
I didn't. I've been here 18 years. I grew up in Long Island, New York, and went to pharmacy school there and transplanted to Memphis and then found my way to Colorado 18 years ago.
Nice. Colorado is one of those places that when somebody says they moved to Colorado, you're like, well, yeah, of course, Colorado is amazing. Why wouldn't you?
Yep, they leave. They come to visit and they never leave, is what they say.
Yeah, I'm always looking for an excuse to make my way up there. So,
We'll have
uh,
we'll have to have Jeff send you out again then.
hopefully he's listening. so,
Yeah.
um, so tell me a little bit. I always like to get a little bit of background. As far as what put you into pharmacy school. Did you always know you wanted to be a pharmacist? Did you have family in that realm that kind of pushed you in?
So I think I'm one of those like rare people that knew I wanted to be a pharmacist. I went to pharmacy school right out of high school. I don't have any family even in the medical profession, but I started at the neighborhood independent pharmacy when I was in ninth grade. And, by the time I was a junior, I knew that was the career path I wanted to take. And since I'm older, I was of the age when you could go right from high school and do the 5-year Bachelor of Science in pharmacy. And so that's what I did at St. John's University. And then, I opted to not pursue a PharmD. And I went right into working, and I worked for a chain for 13 years. And I got to see that evolve from, 1999, when I probably would have told any member of my family to go into this profession and work for a chain. It's the best thing ever. To, our whole industry has changed in the world of chain pharmacy, independent, mail order. It's truly evolved from what it was, 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting feeds I enjoy on my Facebook is there's a couple Facebook groups where you hear people talk about their experiences just in pharmacy, and it's not associated with any software, with anything other than just pharmacy memes and such. And it is funny to hear those mixed experiences and just people reflecting on how things have changed. Staffing has changed, reimbursements have changed, demands to work as a technician or a pharmacist have changed. So definitely a lot of change within pharmacy. Whether you're at the big stores or you're the one in the big chair at an independent, right?
Totally different.
So you made the plunge to go from working for one of the big chains to another independent, or straight to being independent?
No, I did do a short stretch at a small independent in Boulder, and I had the opportunity to be a 3-day-a-week manager, and that was like ideal for my schedule at the time. And so that reintroduced me to the idea that independence still existed. I was in chain pharmacy for so long, I kind of thought they were a thing of the past. And so that opened up some avenues to see independents that had been around a long time, were successful, opportunities to start some stores on the Front Range here, because a lot of the independents are in the more rural parts of Colorado. And there is a need on the Front Range to have independents and what we can offer. So, I saw my time at that independent coming to an end because they were making some changes and potentially going to close their, brick and mortar setup. And, at that point, I had to make the decision of what I was going to do next. And I decided in August I was going to open a store and open my doors in April. So it was a really quick turnaround. Wow.
Yeah, so this would be the one and only Flatirons Pharmacy, right?
It is. Yep. We're one and only. We've definitely toyed with the idea of what's next, but for right now, we feel like there's so much opportunity that we haven't tapped into or tried in our demographic that we have, here, that we're really focusing on how to grow this establishment right now.
Yeah. So one thing that is probably the first thing that people notice is that your branding, your store's identity, you have a great graphic design and a really solid, I guess, store image. And that comes across in person when you visit the store and also online. If you go to your web page or if you go to your Facebook page, it's all very fresh, very active, very modern, very up to date. So that seems like the store's marketing and image is something that you had value on very, very early.
Yeah, we went through a lot of logos before I saw it and was like, I mean, maybe, women can relate it to like the wedding dress, or like, that's it, that's the one. Um, and so we just kind of tweaked it. We were going for, something clean and inviting, but also had a little bit of old fashioned brick and mortar pharmacy feel to it. We didn't want anything that was like modern and cutting edge, because the idea behind my store when I opened was bringing back that neighborhood pharmacy. A lot of people call us Flatirons. I call us Flatirons, but our whole name is Flatirons Family Pharmacy. And the one thing I remember from working in independence was, the pharmacists that I worked under, they did literally know everybody's family, especially if they all lived in that town. And we wanted to really present that idea that we can take care of your whole family. And little did I know when I first opened that that family concept would also include pets, which has become a big part of our business. And so that played into the colors and the fixtures that we chose. We were not going for medicinal, sterile, white, any of that. So I feel like the branding is something we definitely have held on to, even with a few changes over the years to bring in some of our other offerings. We always really try to stick with our colors and our branding.
That's such an interesting thing that branding is so important. You see that with breweries or so many products, especially like food products. The branding is so important because that's that's just a major part of the experience. So always like that. Just wanted to compliment you on that. So early on, you started your pharmacy. What was one of your first decisions? After you made that initial opening order with your supplier, you have your basic pharmacy OTC and your RX stuff. What was your first pull, like your first kind of direction outside of just dispensing?
So for us, it ended up being compounding. When I opened, some of the advice, and that was almost 7 years ago now, was, well, you need to have something special, something that sets you apart. So they talk about delivery. Okay, we had that. Oh, you could get into long-term care and bubble packing. And I was like, I did that all through college. I don't have a passion for it. So I was like, all right, let me do this compounding thing. And I, brushed up my skills and thought, okay, this'll grow slowly. And all I knew was chain pharmacy and dispensing. And I just assumed that is what would grow the quickest. But for us, honestly, the compounding grew a lot quicker than the regular prescriptions because we were right here in town. We were able to do a quick turnaround for, whether it was an animal or person that had a need for it. It wasn't a 3 to 5 day wait. And that is something that we've maintained that has really allowed us to grow our compounding business to, being a huge part of what we offer. And we have kept the way we do our schedule, we have kept it so that offices that have immediate needs, we can meet them because we do work with a lot of emergency situations. And so it was really nice to come into that and be welcomed into the community and especially the veterinary world because, working at a chain pharmacy, it's just not something that you, for any reason, get heavily involved in. So it was really nice to experience something new after, working almost at that time was probably about 15 or 16 years as a pharmacist. This was like a whole new world to me that we've really gotten super passionate about.
Awesome. Compounding is such a, it seems like almost like a concierge service. It's just that customized medicine for your patients that, like I said, you're not getting it at the big box stores, but it also opens the door for a lot of other niche solutions and very specific areas. And I imagine also just really stronger relationships, not only with your patients, but with the physician groups and everything in the area as well. So have you like really nurtured a specific area or pursued a specific area to try to grow that?
Yeah, so for us, like I would say, our into compounding was definitely the veterinary world, and then people would see our branding that we did compounding and call and ask different questions, and so probably about 18 months into business, we got introduced to the functional medicine world. I always say we got introduced kind of backwards in that we started making and dispensing things and not entirely knowing what they were for. And so that really piqued my curiosity and the curiosity of my staff to make sure, well, we need to be able to counsel on these. We want to make sure that what we're doing is safe, effective, within all the guidelines. So it really took off, I would say, in the last 2 years, where our reputation, around functional medicine has really grown in the state. And we definitely try to be respectful of other independents and them trying to grow their own business. But functional medicine itself in Colorado is growing, so there's always new opportunities broken down into various regions as well. So we have, through word of mouth, which typically comes from, well, Dr. So-and-so said to call you. They said, you can help me with this problem, or you're the only one that is stocked up on this med that nobody else can get. Is that true? Do you still have it? And by building these relationships and problem solving, we've been able to grow our reach and our reputation almost organically. Without, there's times that we just haven't had the staffing or we haven't had the budget for an on the ground marketer, things like that. And so we've been able to organically grow just through the services that we provide and our reputation and word of mouth.
Yeah, that's great. When you have that kind of organic growth, it's like you're on the right path, and that's going to just that snowball's going to keep getting bigger, hopefully. So with that going on in the background, you're increasing your compounding, you're growing your customer base. What other opportunities did you start to experiment with when you say, "Hey, we have this new foot traffic, our numbers are up. How else can we strike while the iron's hot?"
So, coming back to functional medicine, which, I think if anybody listening doesn't know what it definitely is kind of a mixed bag of nuts with its reputation. And I encourage everybody to really look at what functional medicine truly is. It's not homeopathy. It's not, voodoo. It's looking at the root cause of illness and trying to treat the root cause versus the symptoms. That's what it boils down to. And so with that, and starting to begin to learn about that and taking different CEs, I realized that supplements were another opportunity that we were missing out on. And, in life, you get what you pay for, and all supplements are not created equal. And so we really evaluated the inventory of vitamins and nutritional supplements that we carried. And we opted to do some research with some different brand provider grade partners, and we brought in different lines that we had heard doctors recommending, or certain doctors said, hey, I don't want to sell in store, but this is what I want my patients to have. Can you carry this? Can you make sure your staff knows if they come from my office, these are the things that they need if they are vague about it. This is what I want them to have. So that was like our stepping stone into really researching supplements and nutrient depletion. That was something that we were definitely missing the mark on. And it's not always easy, and not every interaction is a sale. And that's really not our goal. I always try to educate my staff, like, we're not here to be like car salesmen and close the deal on the spot. It's really to plant the seed. Some people feel more comfortable getting the information and just checking with their doctor. Some people just take it at face value and they're going to buy it. Some people have stuff at home that they're like, well, I want to finish what I have because I spent money on it, but I want to come in next time. Can you write this down? And we have, cards that we can give them with what we recommend. So we tried to change our interactions at the register, which I think is a huge opportunity that sometimes independents miss out on, especially if we get too busy and we get back into that big box mentality of get it out, get it done, get it quick. We open to provide something different, and patient engagement is something that, just with the reality of the big box and their staffing, the pharmacists don't always have time to do. And so, we have 2 spaces that we can talk with someone. We have private rooms if something's more in depth. And so we really do take the time on the spot to try to answer those questions, where the pharmacist will take over and then the clerk or the technician can continue with the people behind them. But we really try to engage people when they come in with us, and plant that seed of wellness and advocating for yourself and your own health.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you touched on something pretty interesting there, that, a lot of times the point of sale is the most important face-to-face time you have with that patient. And so often it's, it's that just move the line through. It's the last step in workflow. And, sometimes efficiency takes a front seat to effectiveness or those relationships. So it is an interesting thing to keep in mind. So as you're growing this patient base, who, if they're coming from doctors who are focusing on that functional medicine, it seems like you already have a certain patient base that's going to be receptive to new ideas and to some of these things. So are you able to kind of take that same mindset to patients who are coming in for their normal maintenance medications, maybe just off the street coming in for their blood pressure medications, and kind of turn those patients into believers? Because, like you said, functional medicine, if you just go to a search engine and Google functional medicine, you'll read articles about patchouli and everything else. When it really is a lot more than that. It's that collective care of, just like you said, fixing the root cause.
Yeah, our some of the biggest opportunities we've had with patients that haven't been exposed to that idea of, I don't have to stay this way forever. I can be an advocate for my own health, is, the nutrient depletion piece. A lot of, diabetic blood pressure medications, NSAIDs, even like something simple as birth control pills, like take nutrients out of your body. And it's a really easy conversation to have. And we've tried to make some various cheat sheets as bag stuffers, or for the pharmacist on duty to have, because it can get to be a lot in your head, jumbled. Wait a minute, is this one deplete this, or is it this one? So we have some cheat sheets. but we like tell somebody, are you starting to have muscle weakness? Statins is a great one. It's known to deplete your body of CoQ10. And we really try to talk with our patients on statins first about, how long have you been on it? Are you doing anything lifestyle diet wise to perhaps reduce your dose or get off of it? Then we also talk about, products like bergamot that have been studied to work on the same pathway as a statin, but they don't have the same, depletion. So we would never tell somebody, hey, stop your drug and take this. But we just try to plant the seed, give them information on some different options, whether it be lifestyle or supplement. And a lot of times we find, Colorado is a very healthy state. And so people are generally receptive to the information, that there are other options. And I think that, doctors are put under some of the same pressure that large big box pharmacies are, where they have metrics to meet and everything is limited in time and they only have so much time to engage with a patient, that some of these longer conversations get left out. And, it's been shown that patients see their pharmacist more than they see their doctor. So again, something might not happen the first conversation. It may be the next time, or maybe they'll pick up the phone. We've had a lot of success with diabetes self-management patients. We're, accredited to do DSME, and we were on a good upward trajectory, and then COVID kind of hit, and it's been challenging to have people in person, and there was all the back and forth over telehealth. So we're trying to revamp that, but those were a really receptive patient population, because they often have comorbidities other than diabetes. They don't like taking a lot of the diabetic medications because of side effects. So having these DSME classes that we do get paid for our time for, if they're Medicare, and we're fortunate that in our demographic, people will just pay cash for our classes. We're able to offer them various supplements, and we have an A1C machine. So when they come in, we can track their progress by following our recommendations with diet, supplements, things like that. So we had a patient that you would look at him and think he was healthy, and he was not severely overweight or anything, but he was a type 2 diabetic, super out of control with his sugars. And, we just said, look, give this ketogenic diet 30 days and let's check your A1C. We've got to get some control here. And we talked to him about how to do that, how to do it safely, how to watch his blood sugars. And sure enough, he was like, his mind was blown by the results. Like, he had spent all of this time struggling to get his blood sugars, and they kept adding another pill and an injection of this. And now he's backing off his doses, right? His doctors are able to decrease his meds. And so that's, I think DSME is a great opportunity for almost any independent pharmacy to get involved in, because there is the opportunity to get paid for it. If you do group classes and you're not set up with a medical plan, if you do enough people at once, you can do the cost low enough that almost anybody can afford to come to the class, but at least you're getting paid for your time and, the value that you're providing to these patients. So it's a great revenue source. And of course, we're still challenged with COVID, in-person, group size, but I think we're at the point that we can work around most restrictions and start bringing that back in.
So that's so interesting. Did you see, like, in any realm when you were maybe at a big box store, that now you would be in an environment where, as an independent pharmacist, you're holding nutritional classes, recording labs, and getting patients off of medication? It seems a bit untraditional for a pharmacist.
No, I really didn't. I think as I started taking students here at the store, I realized how much more clinical their education is compared to when I went to school. and that they really are suited to do a lot of this. It also made me realize that myself or my staff, I don't do the diabetes program, but like, okay, we need to brush up on things. And, the good thing about doing the AADE certification is like you have to do 15 hours of CE. You have to get up to date with, all the current standards. In the functional medicine world, our recommendations may be a little bit different, but they can definitely be married together to have the best outcome for the patient. I never in a million years thought I would be purchasing an EHR platform, but that's like next on our list because we have enough patients coming in to see us, and we work with a physician that comes in and sees patients for us, that we need an EHR, where it's like we have too many papers that we're trying to keep. So I never would have thought that expanding the space that we initially expanded to, we took on another like 1,000 square feet. We're like, oh, this front space, we're going to just add retail. And we put all this retail in it, and we're like, oh, nobody goes over here. What are we going to do with this side? And, we built a conference area for our classes, and we have 2 wellness rooms. One has an exam table now. It continually evolves from what I thought it would be from day one.
Which is really neat because if you think about it, pharmacists, hometown pharmacists, Main Street pharmacists have always branched out and done different things. The Norman Rockwell paintings of the soda fountains, the early adaptation of, ice machines and soda fountains and gift shops and gift cards. And traditionally, pharmacists have looked in other areas, but those other areas seem limited to those things. So stepping into that clinical space definitely seems like you have all of the tools to take that doctor's diagnosis, to dispense those medications, and then help make sure that they're effective. But now you're even moving into realms where you can even help with some of the diagnosis with point of care testing. And so have you stepped into that realm yet?
Yeah, so our first intro to point of care testing was doing flu and strep. And honestly, it was hit or miss for us because there's just a plethora of urgent care, and pharmacists are not marketers. So I think maybe we a couple times missed the mark on marketing, but we did pretty well with it. People liked the idea of being able to come in and not have to wait in an urgent care with other sick people. We priced it so that it wasn't any more expensive than an urgent care visit. And so the challenge that we ran into, and I would definitely suggest to anybody getting into this space, is try to get a blanket collaborative agreement to prescribe if your tests are positive. We just weren't entirely sure how to approach it. And so at the time, we started going to our top providers, and some were like, oh my gosh, this is great. Yes, sign, you can prescribe. Then others were like, no, I need a phone call. And so then that delayed it for the patient, and it wasn't this seamless experience for them to get their medication. And so once the machine is off back order, the machine only lasts 2 years. We will work with the doctor that we have a relationship with to now have that blanket collaborative agreement, kind of like we do for immunizations, so that you can, if somebody's strep positive, you just want to get them on an antibiotic. That's pretty cut and dry. With its flu, you can leave it up to the patient if they want the Tamiflu or not, but you at least want to be able to prescribe it, not say, oh, we just tested you, you're positive for flu, but now your doctor wants you to go there too. So, we definitely don't get everything right the first time. It is tons of learning experiences. And so then we have been fortunate enough, we are a CPESN store, and we got, our group got a grant from the Colorado Department of Health that involves the University of Colorado. So our next step into point of care testing is the A1C machine and the cholesterol machine. I don't know, I can't recall the exact name of it right now, but we're able to offer those on site as well. And patients really, really like that. especially the diabetics. You can't use the A1C to diagnose someone as diabetic, but you can use it if somebody is like, hey, I've been working really hard and I want to see what my A1C is now that I've made these changes. They can just come in, pay the fee and get that reading rather than having to go to the doctor, then go to a lab and do all of that. So that's been a really nice addition that we've been able to do through this partnership with the Department of Health and the university.
So you touched on a lot just then. One of the first things is you said it was challenging, and of course, if you're on that front line of change, you're figuring a lot of this out with a small group. There's not. It's not something that's established across the board that every pharmacy is doing currently. There's point of care testing, even immunizations are fairly new in the realm of pharmacy. So, how do you find support for those new endeavors when you do face those challenges? How do you decide what challenges align with your values and your patients and your community needs? Do you just spend a lot of time doing research? Is it from, do you just have a buddy you call? What's your support system here?
I'm definitely not the best researcher. I like to turn something on and have it work right away. So I definitely am probably like more on the impulsive, let's just try it and see if it works side. But honestly, one of the best resources I've had over the years, it's kind of evolved. When I first opened, it was going to the various trade shows and meeting people and having them as points of contact, because whether they were at it a year longer than me or 20 years longer, I had different people that I could reach out to. And then I got invited. It's probably been a year or two. And I honestly wish I had this group when I first opened. We have an independent pharmacist Facebook group that is, worth its weight in gold, because everyone there, you got people from all over the country. So different demographics, different age, some people own 10 stores. Some people started one store 4 months ago. And it's a great resource to pull from. And share ideas with, because we all know reimbursements are challenging, finances are hard. And so I think that having this group to say, hey, I tried this, it was terrible, don't do what I did, is great. Or, hey, we did this, it's really working, this might be good in your area. That I feel like that is definitely my support system now. And it's an easy one to get to. And you make friends along the way. And then when you go to these trade shows, which we haven't gotten to this year, but then you get to meet these people in person, which is even better. And so they really become, friends and mentors along the way.
Yeah, it is interesting that independent pharmacies, even on the same strip of the same main street of the same city, are generally really collaborative and love to help each other, and there's a unique community there with pharmacists in general. So I'm definitely missing the trade show season this year as well. So when you do try something new, not everything you try probably has been successful, right? Have you had some projects that maybe you pursued, and at what point did you say, I'm going to go another direction, and that's okay? And how do you bounce back from what wasn't as successful as you hoped it'd be?
I will say for us, our first round of trying to get DSME accredited, it didn't go well. The amount of paperwork and the time, it was wrong. And I did obviously invest a staff pharmacist time in that, and we didn't get to the end point. And temporarily, I scrapped the whole idea. I was like, oh, we're gonna find something else. And so that was probably a good year, like wasted trying to pursue that. Because when we went to do it again, we had to start all over. We tried. I will say for me, some of my biggest flops have honestly been on our non-pharmacy side with the gifts and some of the stuff that I bring in. And they just like, you think it's going to be great. Next thing you know, you're like just begging people to just take it for free. I don't know what I was thinking with this $300 razor, or something like, I mean, those have been some of my epic fails. We've tried a few things, and I know some of the independents that listen will be familiar with this, and I don't want to name names to like give any group a bad reputation, but we've tried some of these like quote unquote partnerships with other companies where, hey, all you do is you just fill the prescription, we do the rest of the work, and you can make lots of money. And we tried one for about 2 months, and they wanted 60% of the profits, and they definitely did not do all the work. And so, and my staff didn't like it. I didn't like it. So that was kind of a fail. And, it was time consuming because they came in, they brought in equipment, training time. And I think sometimes we forget about staff time being a financial investment. And so that was time that we put into that. A lot of people know I did cataract surgery boxes for quite a long time. And there was a partnership involved with a piece of those that definitely ended up being a fail at the end. The company's still around, but I had to make a business decision to give up the income to keep my pharmacy true to what it was. And I felt like what they were asking was just too far off course for what our focus was. And that was a lot of staff time, energy, long nights, overtime put into trying to make this partnership work. So I would say, like, from a blanket thing, these partnerships with outside companies are definitely something I suggest always doing a lot of due diligence on, and checking with people who have done it, are still with it, not with it. If they're not, why didn't they? Because a lot of times, things aren't always what they seem, and their job is to sell themselves to
Sure.
a pharmacy because they need us. They need us to do the dispensing. They're not. And so those were things that I would say, given, the roller coaster of reimbursements, you kind of think like, okay, well, this sounds pretty good. All right, this could offset this or that. And they just didn't pan out. And it may work in a different pharmacy, but for us, we really had to come back to our roots. And for me, my roots were like local, independent, really take care of Colorado, not worry about 50 states. People have asked me to get licensed and compound in 50 states. And I'm like, that's not my business model. There's plenty that is their business model, and they're really good at it. It's not mine. And so you sometimes have to say no to opportunity to stay true to what you started for.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting too, that it may be successful at another pharmacy, in another market, with another business plan, with other business goals. But finding what's right for you is going to be just as important as the product itself, even. So what do you have on the burner now? I'm always curious to know what
what don't I have on the burner? So I can kind of tell you what we have on the burner based on another flop was genomics. Like trying to get into the pharmaco and nutrigenomics was something that we thought would be great because we had a couple patients that didn't care about the price, and they came in and paid for it and loved it. And it just never took off. And then there was this whole weird FDA thing, and it kind of got quiet. But in our world of really believing in root cause and, the genetic reasons behind certain things, and we are trying to get back in with an affordable way of doing pharmaco and nutrigenomics. But for right now, I think my biggest idea is subscription boxes for our supplements, right? Everybody loves boxes. I mean, good Lord, there is a box for everything right now.
Yep.
Right. And like, why don't we have subscription boxes?
FabFitFun.
Yeah. Right.
That's a great one.
They have them for the dogs, like everybody, keto boxes, this boxes. And I'm thinking, well, we've got regular customers. We should offer them a benefit to buying from us. We already package our products as pretty as we can. We put like colored tissue paper and fold it nice. We try to, when our compounds go out, we try to make it aesthetically pleasing and look professional. So let's do that with supplements. I think that is like our first win. And people a lot of times are on stuff forever. So why not offer them free shipping every 90 days if you commit to this? And, you can have tiered discounts. So that's one idea. Compounding is like definitely our growth piece. We met our next big goal in September. Like, we've been reaching for this goal of a X number of compounds a month, and we finally hit it. And the reason behind that, and I think every independent probably has this, like, what's the one thing we have financial control over in this industry? And it's not the PBM. So whether it's your front end sales, your gift shop, your compounding, long-term care, you have a little bit more control over getting accounts and things like that. So we're really trying to grow that and then kind of decide space-wise, what does that look like? Because you've seen, I think you were here when we had our 800 lab. Did we have it built out?
Yeah, you were in the process.
Yeah, and so it's like, are we outgrowing this already with the amount of staff we might need? The other big thing is really trying to expand on this partnership that we have with a doctor, who is cool to be with us, super part-time. So trying to make that a real offering to our patients. So we, people are like, what do you need a doctor for? So for some people, it might be urgent care visits, which we're thinking about, okay, we might offer those for a reasonable fee. But for us, back to point of care testing, we do hormone testing, ZRT, either blood spot or saliva testing. And the patients pay for the lab and they pay for a consult with us. But what happens is, as everybody knows, we don't have prescriptive authority, which is fine. But if the patient paid for labs and paid for a consult and they need something, they want to be able to go home with what they need to make them feel better. And so we have a doctor then that closes that gap for us. And so we're really trying to, rather than kind of a patient here, a patient there, really kind of make that, now that it's, we've done our beta run with it and had a group of patients and they like it. Really make that a true offering that we advertise, and people can go online, schedule all of that for. We just brought in, and we will probably do our huge launch in January, but we're going to do a soft launch of a weight loss program. And the reason I chose this, and people who follow me on Independence know I have been all over the place, back and forth, but I chose this brand because it is run by registered dietitians. So it's not, in my opinion, like a fad diet. And it's a very flexible program where it has a 16-week program that's their gold standard. But if you have somebody that feels that's too restrictive for them, or, they don't have as much weight to lose as the next person, you can really customize this program to each person's needs without them feeling like they have to buy a certain amount of food every week, no matter what. But, so the food is profitable. We got a body composition scale that will go along with this and the app that this program offers. And so it really all comes back to the idea of trying to help our client base become well and advocate for their own health, before they get sick, or if they're on the borderline of being pre-diabetic, let's stop it. Let's stop it before you need meds. And I
Wow.
feel like this diet, or it's really a lifestyle program, because it slowly reintroduces real food, and then it's up to you if you want to buy their bars or snacks. You can get off their food entirely. And I liked that because it didn't feel like a sales pitch for the rest of your life to keep the weight off.
Sure. So you again threw out a lot of every time I talk to you, you have so many things that you're working on, and which I think is amazing. I'm going to go way back. First, you mentioned like that the box and the packaging, and I got to thinking those boxes, the presentation of those has become part of like our culture now. If you go on Instagram, you have like unboxings, and when you open an Apple product, the packaging is so amazing. I have a Dollar Shave program that they just send the razors to my house, so I don't even have to worry about it. And they're super super cheap razors. They could come in in a white envelope, and it'd be like, but they go out of their way to put it in this ginormous labeled, branded, really well branded packaging, and it makes it something more than the product inside. It's at that point, that packaging makes it almost like a present. There's something special about it. And so I was thinking about that as a follow-up. When somebody comes into your pharmacy, they're doing those lab tests, they're talking to your specialists, they're buying nutritional foods, they're getting advice from you in a bunch of different areas, and then they go home and they have this special package come in the mail to them. It's almost more like being a member of something than just a patient. Like, I'm not going to run into the drugstore. I'm going to stop into Flatirons Family Pharmacy for my monthly consult. It makes your pharmacy both an event and a destination for the day.
Yeah, I sometimes use the word, like, I think we're more of a boutique pharmacy, and I never want to use that term like to exclude anyone. But again, in our demographic, we've got, I don't know, 6 chain stores. We've got Walmarts, we've got grocery stores. So like, I don't carry paper towels. I don't carry toilet papers like some rural stores do, and probably need to and do well with. So we definitely, we have a different experience that works for us. And I have to give Nicolette Matthey the tissue paper credit. Like, I can't take credit for the packaging. It was actually at the last year's Pioneer show that she talked about how she packages her products, and I was like, what a brilliant no-brainer idea. Like, cheap tissue paper, you buy it in bulk, and it just makes you look that much better than not to rag on Amazon, but right, the stuff you come from Amazon comes in a box. Sometimes it's got bubble wrap, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it rattles around and you wonder if it's broken. Like, so we just take that little extra step that, like you said, it makes it a little bit of an experience rather than, oh, there's my box, toss it aside type thing. So I think if anybody's doing anything, that is probably one of the best takeaways that we've had from a trade show, is just package your product professionally.
Yeah, it definitely makes it special. It takes something that could be utilitarian, and it makes it personal, and makes it special, and it's easy to do that face to face. But I think maybe we forget about that once it goes in a mailbox sometimes. So that's really interesting. Well, we're just about up out of time, and I know you have I know you have so much going on there. I am curious, how you see things in 5 years, where you're going from here.
Honestly, in 5 years, my short-term goal is to find the right pharmacy manager, because I think a lot of owners can relate to the fact of, you have all these ideas, but when you have yourself on the bench 3 to 5 days a week, it's very hard to bring these ideas to fruition. And I really feel like with adding the right member to our team, I really see us growing to being a true wellness destination, and really filtering out things that aren't working or aren't profitable for us, and really honing in on the things that bring something unique to the community and bring in the revenue that we need to continue to grow. And that may mean expanding within this space, expanding in a bigger space, or, a different location down the road. But I'm really excited to just keep growing what we have and changing with the times that our profession is faced with. But I think it's giving us a lot of unique opportunities that we might not have thought of even 5 years ago.
Absolutely. Well, anybody listening, I would definitely recommend you go add Flatirons Family Pharmacy on Facebook, because Jen's very active on there. I always enjoy watching your videos on there. In fact, you mentioned bergamot. You have a great video where you were just talking about that with your patients. If you put all of that in a face-to-face transaction, when somebody's, maybe got to pick up their kids soon, or, how much of that are they going to take with them and hold 3 days from now? Whereas if you could reach them in their home, that's a really different experience, where you're able to reach out and have that connection. So anybody watching, definitely go make some new friends on Facebook, be sociable. But Jen, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thanks, Will.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Thank you for listening to this episode of Beyond the Scripts, presented by the Catalyst Pharmacy Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please support our channel by liking, subscribing, and clicking the notification bell so that you'll be notified anytime we post new content. To stay up to date with all of the latest independent pharmacy news and content, follow PioneerRx on your preferred social media platform.